What is going on, everyone? Hope you're all doing well. Today we've got a couple of news stories in the world of tech and PC gaming. The first one is an exciting one as we've got the very first leaked photo of the RTX 4080 graphics card in all of its glory. We're only a few weeks away from the official reveal and all the specs and everything like that, and probably just a couple of months away from these cards actually starting to ship. So very exciting times indeed. Also, Ubisoft has tweeted out ahead of its official announcement for the next Assassin's Creed game, showing us a first piece of artwork, the name of the game, and also we've got some leaks regarding the setting for the next Assassin's Creed game and some of the features which also excite me quite a bit. And also, Callisto Protocol from the developers of Dead Space has been revealed to not be coming to the Xbox Gamepass, but for a very good reason, honestly. We'll get into all of it in just a moment, but before we get into the first story, I just wanted to let you know that tonight at 10:30 p.m. Eastern Time, that is on September 2nd, I'm going to be joining my buddy Raider Ben on the Just Win Baby podcast. It's a Raider podcast. He does a lot of mostly Raiders-themed content, news stories, podcasts, playing with the Raiders on Madden and stuff, which is how I found him. And in case you didn't know, I am a little bit of a fan of the silver and black, so we're going to get on there, we're going to have a good time, shoot the shit, talk about our predictions in the upcoming Raider season. So if you're a Raider fan, a football fan, or just a fan of myself, be sure to head over there and check us out and support the content, and I'll leave a link down in the description below to where you can find that podcast, as well as in a pinned comment. So with all of that out of the way, let's get into our first topic. But first, today's video is brought to you by SuperCDK.com, where you could save money on games for all of your favorite platforms, as well as software like Windows 10 Pro licenses for just $22, and then you can unlock the prestigious Dark Mode for Windows 10, which I honestly could not live without. It is blinding without the dark mode. You guys need it in your life. And now you can also save an additional 25% off at checkout by clicking Buy Now on any software products over there. Just go ahead and add it into your cart and put in my code JP25 at checkout and apply, and that'll bring our price from $22.44 all the way down to $16.83, a savings of over $5. And I'll walk you through how to get your key and install it on Windows 10. Go ahead and click Submit Order and complete your checkout from there. For me, that's going to be with PayPal, and then click on Pay Now. After completing the checkout, it'll bring you to your purchased order page, and it will update in a matter of seconds, or just go ahead and hit F5. Go ahead and do that one time. It came through literally immediately. I got the payment email that it had gone through and the delivery of the product exactly at the same time. Once you're done with that, go ahead and click on View Keys and Codes, and we'll get our code right here that we can go ahead and copy and paste in on Windows 10 by hitting the Start button and type in the word Activate. When you see that activation settings or see if Windows is activated, go ahead and click on that, and it'll bring up this right here, and click on Change Your Product Key or Unlock Windows 10. As I already have Windows 10, I obviously don't need to put in a new key, but just paste it in and then go ahead and click Next, and you are all done and set. For more information on SuperCDK.com as well as the coupon code, be sure to check out the links down in the description below. So first up, the RTX 4080. We recently got an official mention of this during an earnings call from NVIDIA by their CEO Jensen Huang himself in all of his leather jacket and spatula-owning glory. So here it is. This is the first image of the RTX 4080 graphics card. As you can see, the cooler seems to be the exact same design if this turns out to be real. I mean, it definitely looks like a real thing, but does that mean that it is 100% real? No, of course, anything is possible. You know, someone could have taken an RTX 3080 and went ahead and maybe just removed this one piece here and then 3D printed a new one, or just slapped on a new logo and then covered up some of their sloppiness by putting in this crinkly plastic bag. All of these things are definitely possible, but it's also possible that this is actually an RTX 4080 being produced here. And as you can tell, it's the same exact cooler that they used on the 3000 series. So in recent years, they have been changing it up from year to year. They went away from the blower-style coolers on the 20 series, and then with the 30 series, they went to this new design with the one fan on the front, one fan on the back, which I thought worked out pretty well, and probably one of some of the cooler running Founders Edition or reference model cards from NVIDIA that we have seen in years. So was definitely a step in the right direction. So if they stick with that same design, I'm absolutely cool with it. The only real difference here seems to be in the font on the back of the card. This is not the typical GeForce font, except for the RTX lettering. But the 4080 is a slimmer font. It could have been RTX unbolded, which is a GeForce font, which not unbold. But it looks like more like recently, as mentioned by Video Cards, that on the NVIDIA website, they started recently using a new font type called NVIDIA Sans Nala. And it does seem to match up perfectly with that. As you can see, the font right here that they're using on their website, and then the picture right here that is shown on the back of the card. If they were using a traditional GeForce font, it would have looked something more like this, a little bit bolder on the 4080. So there's not too much we could learn, from this picture other than the fact that this is the way the card looks, and it looks kind of like a 3080 or a 3090, honestly. Can't really tell from here if it's a 2 or a triple slot card. It does kind of look like a dual slot, but also it could just be the angle, so it's really impossible to say. We still don't have any official specs, but according to Video Cards, the latest rumors and leaks for the 8103 base GPU will be that it has 9,278 CUDA cores and 16 gigabytes of GDDR6 memory running at 23 gigabits per second. So exciting that it'll have 16 gigabytes, and with those 9,728 CUDA cores, this thing should look to definitely surpass the 3090 Ti by a fair margin. And of course, I'm hoping that we'll see 4090s coming out as well, and then maybe later on 4080 Ti's and all of that stuff. So not too much longer to go, and we'll have all the details on the RTX 4000 series. Next up, Ubisoft has confirmed that the next Assassin's Creed game will be called Assassin's Creed Mirage over on Twitter, and also saying that they can't wait to tell us more on September 10th at Ubisoft Forward at 9 p.m. Central CEST. I'm sure what time zone that. 12 p.m. Pacific. I'm not sure what CEST is, but 12 p.m. Pacific, so that'll be 3 p.m. Eastern time. So we don't really get too many more details other than that, although you can see here in the artwork that it does appear to be a Middle Eastern type of setting, and if you're an expert on, armor of that era in the Middle East, then I guess you could probably ascertain a little bit more accurately where this is going to be set. But according to the latest leaks, Assassin's Creed Mirage will be returning to basics, and there won't be any leveling or dialogue systems, and moreover, the game will take place in Baghdad between the years of 860 and 870. So very interesting choice of setting. I still want to see them go to Japan or China. I know there was like that one like side-scrollery China game, but I still would love to see a game set in Japan, sort of like Ghost of Tsushima, but in the Assassin's Creed universe. One thing I'm really happy about with this is in regards to the leaks, which again aren't official or anything, but they mentioned the return to basics and getting rid of the leveling system and stuff, which honestly, the leveling part I don't really care too much about. I have no problem with them putting in something like a skill tree or something like that, but making it like a full-on RPG, I honestly thought was a step in the wrong direction for Origins and Odyssey, and I was just not a big fan of those games, mostly just because they were so bloated with so much meaningless content in the open world and collectibles and towers to climb and this and that to do. Just meaningless shit, just fetch quests out the ass. It was like, and Valhalla too. Valhalla was the worst of them, honestly. Origins was like, okay, I put up with it for that game. I finished that game. I did not finish Valhalla or Odyssey. Honestly, those games were just terrible in my honest opinion. And I miss the Assassin's Creed games of old. And when they say return to basics, I also hope that that does mean the combat system. I really miss and love the free-flow combat system that Assassin's Creed pioneered back in the early games from that franchise, with the first game as Altair and throughout the Ezio collection. And I believe it was Unity was maybe, I think that was the first game that sort of went away from that and got into more of a, blocking and parry system rather than the free-flow combat that they were sort of known for. And I just really want them to go back to that. It was just so satisfying and fun. It wasn't particularly challenging, although sometimes it could be, but for the most part, once you got used to it and got new abilities and weapons and stuff, it could be fairly simplistic if you were good at it. But I don't care. I had so much fun in those games. It might have been a little bit easier, but whatever. If it was fun, it was fun, and it would still be fun if they were to bring it back for Assassin's Creed Mirage. But as long as the game is not overly bloated with tons of meaningless shit in the game, then I'll probably be all over it like white on rice on a paper plate with a glass of milk in the middle of a fucking snowstorm. So let me know what you think about it down in the comments below. In the setting in Baghdad. Kind of interesting. I believe it's like the first time we've gone back to the Middle East, really, since like Altair. That was like a Middle Eastern type of setting. So definitely sounds like kind of returning to basics in that regard with the setting. Last up, before we get out of here, the Callisto Protocol. I've been talking about this game on the channel for a while now, ever since we got the reveal, and I knew who was behind the game. The original developers from the Dead Space franchise, one of my favorite franchises of all time, left EA and went and formed their own new studio called Striking Distance. And they basically went right back to work with making a Dead Space game, except they can't call it Dead Space because EA owns Dead Space. So it's called the Callisto Protocol, but if you've seen the gameplay, you know it's Dead Space, basically, which is absolutely fine by me. You can't say they copied Dead Space when they're the ones that invented Dead Space. It looks gorgeous. The combat looks fun. It looks like a return to form, and I'm so happy that we're basically getting a new Dead Space game with a different name, which is fine by me. New protagonist, all that stuff. It was really about the gameplay with the Dead Space games, so I'm looking forward to it immensely. Now, some people might find this sad that it will not be coming to Game Pass, but I think it's for a completely understandable reason, as CTO Mark James from Striking Distance said that Microsoft has their own single-player games within the service, and I still think you're going to see platform holder studios provide single-player games in them. I'm just saying that as a financial model, it's a difficult one to make work as an independent studio. Continuing on, he says, I think you're going to see single-player games, but it will probably come from the hardware companies. And as an independent third party, it's really hard to make a linear third-person game work within those services. I'm not saying never, it's just hard financially to make it work, which I think is 100% understandable. They are a new studio with their first IP coming out, under this new studio. And it is a linear third-person game, and, if they're not going the greedy EA route of selling microtransactions and basically literally trying to sell you fucking ammo in the middle of a single-player game, the main source of income they're going to have is from people purchasing the game, and maybe if they come out with some story DLCs later on, or expansions to the Callisto Protocol. So that's where their money is going to come from, and I have no doubts that they're going to do really well with that model, and I have no problem plopping down $60, $70, whatever they go with, for a new AAA title that is going to be as good, or if not maybe even better than the original Dead Space. I'm just predicting, I'm hoping that that's the case. I have no problem paying that for even a linear third-person game. Like Witcher 3 comes up, that's an open-world RPG, but it was done right. It was done right by CD Projekt Red. They didn't milk the consumer with microtransactions, and they have stuck with that, with Cyberpunk 2, not really milking people, although that game had its own problems. But as a linear third-person game, I can understand why they would... I'm not really too sure how the payouts work for developers when they put a game on Game Pass, if it's just a flat rate, if it's based on playtime and how much people are playing a game, which would kind of make sense, almost like watch time on YouTube, like how much time people spend on the game, you make more money, because they're coming back to the service basically to play your game. And with a linear game like this, it's more likely than not people are just going to play through it and they're never going to touch it again. I'm not one of those people. I like to play through it, then come back to like a new game plus on the hardest difficulty, maybe try to get all of the achievements. I still remember Dead Space 2 and getting all the achievements in that game, including the one where you had to go through the entire game on the hardest difficulty with no checkpoints, except for 3 saves. You could make 3 saves, but it was manual, so you had to basically pick and choose when you would make these saves. And I remember there was the game was 2 discs on the Xbox 360, so the main strategy a lot of people made was to basically just get through the entire first disc before you ever even save. And, I only ended up dying, I think, 1 time during that, because it was like my second or third playthrough, so I knew the game pretty well, had pretty good strategy going into it. I ended up doing it, and then I unlocked a big finger gun. It was like a big foam finger that went pew pew bang bang. Absolutely awesome. Barely ever got to use the thing, because by the time I unlocked it, I was just completely spent on Dead Space 2. But it was still a really good time replaying through that. But I know that that's probably not most people. They're going to play through this campaign, which might be 8 to 10, maybe 12 to... Hopefully it's more than 12 to 15 hours. I think is really solid for a single-player game like this. So I can understand why they would be hesitant to throw it up on Game Pass. But he does say, never say never, more or less. Which is to say, maybe in a year or two, once all of those initial sales have dried up, maybe then they'll put it on Game Pass to try to open it up to a new audience that maybe didn't want to spend $70 because they weren't sure about the game, and then they'll play it and they'll absolutely fall in love, and then they'll be fans for life, and they'll probably purchase the Callisto Protocol 2 when it came out. I know that's basically what happened with me with Dead Space. I had gotten a PS3 years after it came out, and I was just looking for games to get, and I ended up getting a used copy of Dead Space from GameStop for, I don't know, I want to say maybe $5-10. And I got home and played that game, and I did not stop playing it until I beat it. I remember that I was fairly young at this time. I was living at home with my parents, and I remember my father coming into the bedroom and screaming at me in the middle of the night because he had to get up at like 4 a.m. for work. And it's because I was like, I screamed like a little girl at one point from a jump scare and all of that. And he was just like, "Are you fucking kidding me? I got work in the morning." Greatest game, one of the best gaming experiences of my life was playing through the first Dead Space game. So awesome. So I'm definitely looking forward to the Callisto Protocol and a new generation of gamers finding out what these developers can do and what these games are all about. And I would also be on board if they ever wanted to do a remake, reboot. Oh, they are, aren't they? Oh, wait, EA is doing it. Sorry. EA is doing a remake of the original Dead Space. That's kind of sad. I hope the developers get some of that sweet, sweet cheddar off the top from EA, but I don't really see that happening. But maybe. You never know. But that's all I've got for you guys today. Hope you all have a fantastic one and a great weekend. As I said at the start, I'm going to be on the Just Win Baby podcast. It'll be pinned in a pinned comment down below as well as in the description. So be sure to come over there and support your boy. And I will catch you guys next time for another video. Peace.